It was a quiet night in the small town of Ridgewood, Illinois. The kind of night where nothing seemed out of place and life moved at its usual slow pace. People were either asleep in their beds or watching late-night TV shows while sipping hot chocolate. Outside, the sky was clear, dotted with stars that twinkled faintly against the dark canvas above. But no one, not even the most observant stargazers, could have predicted what would happen next. At exactly 11:47 p.m., something strange began to occur. It started with a low hum, almost imperceptible at first. Some thought it was just the wind, rustling through the trees, while others assumed it was the distant rumble of thunder. But as the sound grew louder, it became impossible to ignore. Dogs howled in confusion, car alarms blared randomly, and lights flickered across neighborhoods. Then, without warning, the sky itself seemed to split open. Witnesses described it as if the heavens had been torn apart like fabric. Above Lake Michigan, which lay just a few miles east of Ridgewood, the air shimmered and rippled unnaturally. It looked like heat waves rising off asphalt on a summer day. But this wasn't heat. It was something far more extraordinary. Slowly, enormous shapes began to emerge from the gap in the sky. They were massive metallic structures gleaming under the pale light of the moon. Each one stretched farther than any skyscraper ever built, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns that pulsed faintly with energy. The townspeople poured out of their homes, staring up in awe and terror. Children clung to their parents' legs, wide-eyed and speechless. Adults whispered prayers or cursed under their breath, unsure whether they were witnessing a miracle or an apocalypse. Someone shouted, "They're spaceships!" And indeed, they were. These weren't planes, drones, or anything remotely human-made. These were alien star destroyers, colossal vessels designed for war, exploration, or perhaps domination. Nobody knew yet, but everyone felt the weight of their presence pressing down on them. Social media exploded within minutes. Videos flooded. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter capturing every angle of the phenomenon. Hashtags like #alien invasion and #sky split trended globally before anyone could process what was happening. News helicopters scrambled to get closer, broadcasting live footage to millions of viewers glued to their screens. Reporters spoke frantically into microphones, trying to make sense of the chaos. Scientists appeared on talk shows, offering theories, ranging from wormholes to interdimensional travel. Yet despite all the speculation, no one could answer the most pressing question: why were these ships here? As panic spread across the globe aboard one of the alien vessels, a council of extraterrestrial beings watched humanity's reaction with growing unease. They had expected resistance, maybe even hostility. After all, Earth's history was riddled with conflict, wars, invasions, and endless power struggles. What they hadn't anticipated was unity. Almost immediately after the ships appeared, humans began working together in ways they never had before. Governments coordinated efforts, sharing intelligence and resources without hesitation. Military forces mobilized swiftly, ready to defend their planet if necessary. Even ordinary citizens stepped up, organizing supply drives and spreading information online. The aliens stared at the monitors displaying Earth's response, their large, glowing eyes narrowing in concern. They had spent centuries conquering planets, subjugating civilizations, and exploiting resources. Their species prided itself on being superior strategists, always staying several steps ahead of their opponents. But now, faced with humanity's resilience and adaptability, they felt something unfamiliar: fear. For the first time in their long history, doubt crept into their minds. Had they made a mistake coming here? Back on Earth, fear mingled with curiosity. In Chicago, a young astrophysicist named Dr. Elena Cruz sat hunched over her laptop, analyzing data streaming in from satellites. She worked tirelessly alongside her team, determined to decode the signals emanating from the alien ships. Every beep, every pulse carried potential meaning, and she refused to give up until she cracked the code. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she cross-referenced frequencies and patterns, searching for anything that resembled language. Hours passed, and just when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her, she found it: a pattern. The signals weren't random. They followed mathematical equations. Concepts like gravity, light, and time repeated themselves in sequences that seemed deliberate. Excited, Elena shared her discovery with her colleagues. Together, they pieced together a rudimentary form of communication. Using this newfound understanding, Earth prepared to send its first message to the invaders. "We are here," the transmission read. "We are united." Seconds later, the response came, a series of pulsating lights accompanied by a deep, resonant tone. Translation: "We mean no harm." Relief washed over many, but skepticism lingered. If the aliens truly meant no harm, why had they arrived with such intimidating force? Why didn't they simply send a message instead of tearing open the sky? Questions swirled in everyone's minds, but one thing was certain. Humanity had crossed a threshold. Whether it led to peace or destruction remained to be seen. For now, the world held its breath, waiting for the next move. The aliens continued to hover silently above major cities, their intentions unclear. Meanwhile, humanity braced, itself preparing for whatever might come next. Little did anyone know the real story was only beginning. The aliens' arrival marked not just a challenge, but an opportunity. An opportunity for Earth to prove its worth, both to itself and to the cosmos beyond. And so, beneath the looming shadow of the Star Destroyers, humanity stood united, ready to face whatever destiny awaited them. The initial shock of the alien arrival began to fade as humanity adapted to the surreal reality unfolding before their eyes. The Star Destroyers remained suspended in the sky, casting eerie shadows over cities and towns. Their silence was unnerving, like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But instead of cowering in fear, people around the world rallied together with a determination that surprised even themselves. It was as if the sheer magnitude of the threat had stripped away divisions, political, cultural, and social, and left behind a shared resolve to protect their planet. In Washington, D.C., emergency meetings were held at the highest levels of government. Presidents, prime ministers, and military leaders from every corner of the globe joined virtual conferences, strategizing how best to respond to the alien presence. For once, there were no arguments over borders or ideologies. Everyone understood that this was not just a national issue but a global one. Scientists were summoned to collaborate on deciphering the aliens' technology and intentions. Engineers worked around the clock to repurpose existing systems, satellites, radar networks, and communication devices to prepare for contact. Fighter jets patrolled the skies, armed and ready to defend Earth if the need arose. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens played their part too. Social media platforms buzzed with activity as people shared tips on survival strategies, offered emotional support, and organized community efforts. In neighborhoods across the world, strangers came together to form neighborhood watch groups, ensuring everyone felt safe during these uncertain times. Schools converted gyms into makeshift shelters, stocked with food and supplies donated by local businesses. Even children contributed, drawing pictures of the Star Destroyers and writing letters addressed to the visitors, hoping they might somehow communicate peace. Dr. Elena Cruz, the astrophysicist who had cracked the mathematical patterns in the alien signals, became an overnight sensation. Her discovery had given humanity its first real chance to communicate with the extraterrestrial beings. Working tirelessly from her lab in Chicago, she led a team of linguists, mathematicians, and computer programmers in crafting a message designed to convey Earth's unity and curiosity. The message included basic concepts like numbers, shapes, and universal constants like pi, alongside images of Earth's diverse landscapes and cultures. When the message was finally transmitted, the entire world waited anxiously for a response. Hours ticked by, each second feeling like an eternity. Then, just as hope began to waver, the Star Destroyers reacted. A series of pulsating lights illuminated the night sky, accompanied by a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the very ground beneath people's feet. Scientists scrambled to analyze the signal, and within minutes they confirmed what many had dared to hope. The aliens were responding. Translation teams worked furiously to decode the message. What they uncovered sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The aliens' reply was simple yet profound. We mean no harm. Those 4 words sparked a mix of relief and confusion. If the aliens truly intended no harm, then why had they arrived with such overwhelming force? Why hadn't they simply sent a peaceful envoy instead of deploying an armada that looked more suited for war than diplomacy? Speculation ran rampant. Some believed the aliens were bluffing, using intimidation tactics to assert dominance. Others argued that the display of power was meant to ensure compliance, a way of saying, "Don't mess with us." Still, others wondered if the aliens had misjudged humanity's reaction, expecting fear and submission rather than resistance and unity. Whatever the reason, the lack of clarity only fueled humanity's determination to dig deeper. As days passed, the aliens made no further attempts to communicate directly. Instead, they continued to hover silently above major cities, their presence a constant reminder of the unknown. This gave humanity time to prepare. Military forces coordinated drills, simulating scenarios where the aliens might launch an attack. Scientists brainstormed ways to counteract advanced alien technology, drawing inspiration from science fiction movies and theoretical physics. Meanwhile, governments implemented contingency plans, evacuating coastal areas and securing key infrastructure in case the worst happened. But amidst all the preparation, something remarkable emerged, a newfound sense of global cooperation. Countries that had long been rivals now shared intelligence and resources freely. China provided satellite data to the United States, while Russia collaborated with NATO allies on defensive strategies. Developing nations received aid and support from wealthier ones, strengthening bonds that had previously been strained by inequality. Even corporations pitched in, donating funds and technology to help humanity face the crisis. For Dr. Elena Cruz, the experience was both exhilarating and exhausting. She barely slept, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline as she pored over data and fine-tuned communication protocols. Her team grew closer with each passing day, united by a shared purpose. They joked about naming the aliens based on their ship designs. One suggested calling them the Shimmer Squad, due to the glowing patterns on their vessels, but the humor masked a deeper anxiety. None of them knew what the aliens truly wanted, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on their minds. Public opinion shifted rapidly as well. At first there was widespread panic, with conspiracy theories running wild. Some claimed the aliens were here to abduct humans for experiments, while others believed they were gods sent to judge humanity. Religious leaders delivered sermons, interpreting the event as a sign of divine intervention, urging followers to repent and seek forgiveness. However, as more information became available, skepticism gave way to cautious optimism. People began to see the aliens not as invaders but as potential allies, or at least as beings capable of coexistence. One particularly memorable moment occurred during a live broadcast featuring Dr. Cruz. When asked what she thought the aliens' ultimate goal was, she paused, choosing her words carefully. "I think they're trying to understand us," she said, "just like we're trying to understand them. Maybe they're scared too. After all, we've proven that we can adapt and unite when it matters most." Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations about empathy and perspective. Despite the progress, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Not everyone embraced the idea of working with the aliens. In some parts of the world, protests erupted, demanding immediate action against the invaders. Militaristic factions called for preemptive strikes, arguing that showing weakness would only embolden the aliens. Conspiracy theorists accused governments of hiding the truth, claiming that secret deals had already been struck with the extraterrestrials. Even within the scientific community, debates raged. Some researchers advocated for aggressive measures, suggesting that humanity should seize the opportunity to study alien technology by force if necessary. Others insisted on patience, warning that any hostile move could provoke retaliation. The divide highlighted the complexity of the situation. How do you negotiate with an unknown entity whose motives remain unclear? Amidst the chaos, one thing was certain: humanity had changed. The arrival of the Star Destroyers had forced people to confront their fears, prejudices, and limitations. It had also revealed their strength, creativity, and capacity for unity. Whether the aliens intended to stay, leave, or make demands, Earth was no longer the same planet they had found. And so, as the world braced itself for whatever came next, humanity stood poised between fear and hope, conflict and cooperation. The aliens may have terrified billions with their dramatic entrance, but in doing so, they had ignited a spark within humanity, a spark that refused to be extinguished. Days turned into weeks, and the Star Destroyers remained suspended in the sky. The alien silence was deafening, their intentions still shrouded in mystery. Humanity had sent multiple messages since that first breakthrough communication. "We mean no harm," echoed back like a fragile bridge between two vastly different worlds. Yet the lack of clarity left people restless. Were the aliens allies? Observers? Or were they biding their time before making a move? Scientists, governments, and ordinary citizens alike were desperate for answers, and then finally the aliens acted. One crisp morning, just as the sun began to rise over the horizon, something extraordinary happened. A smaller vessel detached itself from one of the massive Star Destroyers hovering above New York City. It descended slowly, its sleek surface shimmering like liquid metal under the sunlight. People gathered on rooftops and streets, watching in awe as the ship landed gently in Central Park. Moments later, a hatch opened, and out stepped three figures, extraterrestrial beings unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. They were tall, with elongated limbs and translucent skin that shimmered faintly, almost like water flowing beneath glass. Their eyes glowed softly, shifting colors depending on the angle of light. They moved gracefully, exuding an air of calm authority. Despite their alien appearance, there was something oddly comforting about them, as if they carried wisdom far beyond human comprehension. Accompanied by drones projecting holographic images, they approached a group of representatives waiting nearby. Among them was Dr. Elena Cruz, who had been chosen to lead Earth's delegation due to her pivotal role in decoding the initial signals. The meeting took place inside a makeshift tent erected hastily in the park. Security forces formed a tight perimeter, ensuring no unauthorized personnel could get close. Inside, tension hung thick in the air. No one knew what to expect. Would the aliens demand Earth's surrender, offer trade agreements, or simply leave after delivering some cryptic message? As the extraterrestrials settled into their seats, hovering slightly above the ground, they began communicating through a combination of gestures, sounds, and holographic projections. With Dr. Cruz's team translating in real time, the truth finally came to light. The aliens called themselves the Veilith, a species that had roamed the galaxy for millennia. They weren't conquerors or explorers in the traditional sense. Rather, they were guardians, or so they claimed. Their mission was grim yet urgent: to identify planets on the brink of self-destruction and offer warnings before it was too late. According to the Veilith, Earth was dangerously close to crossing that threshold. Centuries of environmental degradation, unchecked industrialization, and escalating geopolitical tensions had pushed the planet toward irreversible collapse. If humanity didn't change course soon, it would face extinction within mere generations. The holograms displayed vivid simulations of Earth's future, a barren wasteland ravaged by climate disasters, nuclear fallout, and resource depletion. Oceans turned acidic, forests disappeared, and cities crumbled into dust. Billions perished, leaving behind only remnants of a once thriving civilization. The images were horrifying, but they weren't meant to terrify. Instead, the Veilith explained, they were intended to serve as a wake-up call. At first, skepticism reigned supreme. Many dismissed the warning as a ploy, fearing it might be a precursor to invasion. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, accusing the aliens of exaggerating the threat to manipulate humanity into submission. Others argued that the Veilith were simply projecting their own fears onto Earth, assuming every species followed the same destructive path. But as more evidence emerged, data collected by Veilith probes showing rising carbon levels, shrinking, polar ice caps and dwindling biodiversity, doubts began to fade. Dr. Cruz found herself at the center of the storm. She spent hours questioning the Veilith, probing their motives and verifying their claims. Her scientific training demanded proof, and the aliens obliged, providing detailed analyses of Earth's ecosystems and atmospheric composition. What she discovered chilled her to the bone. The Veilith weren't lying. Their predictions aligned perfectly with studies conducted by Earth's top climate scientists. The difference was that the Veilith had seen this pattern repeat across countless worlds, giving them a perspective humans lacked. Public opinion shifted dramatically as news of the Veilith's warning spread. Governments convened emergency summits, vowing to address the issues raised. Environmental activists seized the moment, organizing global protests demanding immediate action. Social media platforms lit up with hashtags like Save Earth Now and Listen to the Veilith. For the first time in history, humanity seemed united not just by fear of an external threat, but by a shared desire to save its home. Yet, questions lingered. Why had the Veilith chosen such a dramatic entrance? Couldn't they have sent a simple message instead of terrifying billions with their armada? During a private session with Dr. Cruz and other delegates, one of the Veilith ambassadors revealed a startling admission. They had underestimated Earth. "We anticipated resistance," the ambassador explained through the translation device. "Perhaps hostility. Your species is unpredictable. We thought you would crumble under the weight of our presence. Instead, you surprised us." The statement sent shockwaves through the delegation. Humanity's resilience, creativity, and ability to unite in the face of adversity had shaken the Veilith to their core. For all their advanced technology and vast knowledge, they admitted feeling fear, not of humanity's weapons, but of its potential. Humans possessed qualities the Veilith had rarely encountered: adaptability, ingenuity, and an unyielding spirit. These traits made Earth both fascinating and terrifying. This revelation sparked intense debate. Some interpreted the Veilith's fear as a sign of vulnerability, arguing that compassion should guide humanity's response. Others saw it as weakness, advocating for retaliation while Earth still held the upper hand. After all, the Veilith had invaded Earth's airspace without permission, causing widespread panic and economic disruption. Shouldn't they face consequences for their actions? Amidst the turmoil, a grassroots movement emerged, championing collaboration over conflict. Dubbed the Unity Initiative, it was spearheaded by Dr. Cruz and a coalition of scientists, activists, and community leaders. The initiative called for humanity to work alongside the Veilith, using their knowledge and technology to heal the planet. Rather than viewing the aliens as conquerors or saviors, the Unity Initiative framed them as partners in Earth's survival. Slowly, but surely, the tide turned. World leaders signed historic agreements pledging to tackle climate change, disarm nuclear arsenals, and invest in sustainable technologies. Renewable energy projects flourished, international cooperation reached new heights, and scientific advancements accelerated at a breathtaking pace. Humanity had proven itself capable of change, earning the respect of its cosmic visitors. Before departing, the Veilith gifted Earth a piece of their technology, a device capable of repairing damaged ecosystems. It was a gesture of goodwill, a token of hope for the future. As the smaller vessel ascended back into the sky and rejoined the fleet, the crowd gathered in Central Park erupted into applause. Tears streamed down faces, hands clasped together in solidarity, and voices sang songs of gratitude and renewal. For Dr. Cruz, standing amidst the throng of people, the moment felt surreal. Just weeks ago, she had been an astrophysicist working tirelessly to decode alien signals. Now she was part of something much bigger, a movement that transcended borders, languages, and beliefs. Looking up at the star destroyers still hovering, above, she felt a profound sense of responsibility. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, she believed humanity had a fighting chance. As night fell, the star destroyers began to ascend higher into the atmosphere, preparing to leave. The Veilith's mission was complete, for now. They had delivered their warning, offered their assistance, and witnessed humanity's capacity for unity and change. Though their departure marked the end of an era, it also signaled the beginning of a new chapter. Above, the stars twinkled brighter than ever, reminding everyone of the vast universe waiting to be explored. And this time, Earth would face it not as conquerors, but as stewards of peace and progress. The Vaylith's departure left humanity in a state of reflection. For weeks after their ships vanished beyond the horizon, the world buzzed with conversations about what had just happened. People debated endlessly. Were the aliens truly gone? Or were they watching from afar? Had they been honest about their intentions, or was this just the calm before the storm? Despite the lingering uncertainty, one thing was undeniable: the encounter had changed Earth forever. Dr. Elena Cruz found herself at the epicenter of this transformation. Her role as the lead scientist and translator during humanity's first contact with the Vaylith had catapulted her into the global spotlight. Invitations poured in from universities, governments, and media outlets, all eager to hear her insights. Yet for Elena, the experience was bittersweet. While she felt pride in her contributions, she couldn't shake the weight of responsibility that now rested on her shoulders. The Vaylith had entrusted humanity with a daunting task: to save its own planet, and Elena knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. One evening, as she sat alone in her lab surrounded by stacks of research papers and holographic projections of alien data, Elena replayed the private conversation she'd had with the Vaylith ambassador. Their admission of fear had struck a chord deep within her. It wasn't just fear of humanity's unpredictability. It was fear of something deeper: the potential for greatness and destruction intertwined within every human heart. The Vaylith had seen civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy, and they recognized the same patterns unfolding on Earth. But unlike other species, humans had shown resilience, creativity, and an unparalleled ability to unite when faced with a common threat. Elena's thoughts drifted back to the Unity Initiative, the grassroots movement she had helped launch. Its mission was simple, yet profound: to channel humanity's newfound unity into tangible action. From planting trees to developing renewable energy solutions, the initiative aimed to heal the planet while fostering international cooperation. What started as a small effort quickly gained momentum, spreading like wildfire across continents. Schools incorporated lessons on sustainability into their curriculums, corporations pledged to reduce carbon emissions, and communities organized cleanup drives. Even skeptics who had initially dismissed the Vaylith's warning began to take notice as visible changes unfolded around them. But not everyone embraced the message of hope and collaboration. In certain corners of the globe, distrust simmered beneath the surface. Militaristic factions argued that relying on alien technology was dangerous, warning that it could make humanity dependent on extraterrestrial intervention. Others accused governments of prioritizing environmental reforms over economic growth, claiming that stricter regulations would hurt industries and cost jobs. Conspiracy theories resurfaced, questioning whether the Vaylith were truly altruistic or if their gifts came with hidden strings attached. Among the loudest critics were powerful figures who stood to lose the most from the sweeping changes taking place. Fossil fuel tycoons, arms manufacturers, and corrupt politicians saw their influence waning as nations shifted focus toward sustainability and peace. Determined to protect their interests, they launched smear campaigns against the Unity Initiative, labeling it a radical movement bent on dismantling traditional power structures. They even went so far as to accuse Dr. Cruz of being a puppet for the Vaylith, suggesting she had ulterior motives for promoting their agenda. The backlash reached a boiling point when a group of hackers infiltrated the Unity Initiative's database, leaking confidential documents online. The files contained detailed plans for implementing eco-friendly policies, along with correspondence between Elena and various world leaders. Critics pounced, accusing the initiative of orchestrating a global takeover under the guise of environmentalism. Social media erupted with heated debates, dividing people into two camps: those who supported the movement and those who opposed it. For Elena, the attacks were relentless. She received hate mail and death threats daily, forcing her to hire security for herself and her family. Friends urged her to step back, warning that the pressure might overwhelm her. But Elena refused to give up. She believed too deeply in the cause to abandon it now. Instead, she doubled down, using public appearances to address the criticisms head-on. In a televised interview, she spoke candidly about the challenges facing humanity. Yes, change is hard, she admitted. It requires sacrifice, compromise, and sometimes letting go of things we've grown comfortable with. But look at where we are today. Just months ago, we were divided, fighting wars, exploiting resources, ignoring the cries of our planet. Now, we have a chance to rewrite our story. Are we really going to let fear hold us back? Her words resonated with millions. Supporters rallied behind her, organizing rallies and fundraisers to support the Unity Initiative. Volunteers flocked to join local chapters, eager to contribute however they could. Artists painted murals celebrating Earth's beauty. Musicians composed songs inspired by the movement. And filmmakers documented stories of individuals making a difference. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. Meanwhile, scientists continued studying the device gifted by the Veilith. Dubbed the Ecosphere Generator, it was capable of accelerating natural processes like soil regeneration, water purification, and forest growth. Initial tests yielded astonishing results. A barren desert transformed into lush grassland within days, and polluted rivers became crystal clear overnight. However, the generator came with limitations. It required massive amounts of energy to operate, and its effects were temporary unless accompanied by sustainable practices. This revelation reinforced the importance of addressing root causes rather than relying solely on quick fixes. Governments invested heavily in green energy projects, building solar farms, wind turbines, and geothermal plants to power the generator. Educational programs taught communities how to maintain ecological balance without external assistance. The message was clear. The Veilith's gift was a tool, not a solution. Real change depended on humanity's willingness to adapt and persevere. As months passed, the impact of these efforts became increasingly evident. Air quality improved in major cities, wildlife populations rebounded, and farmers reported healthier crops thanks to restored soil fertility. Coastal regions devastated by hurricanes and rising sea levels began rebuilding with climate-resilient infrastructure. Even conflict zones saw glimpses of peace as rival factions set aside differences to tackle shared environmental crises. Yet, amidst the progress, moments of doubt persisted. Some wondered if humanity's unity was merely a fleeting reaction to the alien visitation. Once the memory of the Star Destroyers faded, would old habits return? Would greed and division resurface, undoing all the hard work? These questions haunted Elena, keeping her awake at night. During one particularly restless evening, she decided to visit Central Park, the site of the historic meeting with the Veilith. Walking through the quiet pathways illuminated by soft lamplight, she paused near the spot where the smaller alien vessel had landed. A memorial plaque had been erected there, inscribed with a quote from the Veilith ambassador. "Your strength lies not in your weapons, but in your capacity to dream." Tears welled up in Elena's eyes as she read the words aloud. They reminded her of why she had dedicated her life to this cause, not because she sought fame or recognition, but because she believed in humanity's potential to transcend its flaws. Yes, the journey ahead would be difficult. Yes, setbacks would occur. But as long as people dared to dream of a better future, there was hope. Back at her apartment, Elena opened her laptop and began drafting a speech for the upcoming Global Unity Summit. Leaders from every nation would gather to celebrate the progress made and chart a course for the years ahead. Her goal was simple: to remind everyone that the fight for Earth's survival wasn't just about combating climate change or reducing pollution. It was about rediscovering what it meant to be human. "We are explorers, innovators, and survivors," she wrote. "We are dreamers who refuse to give up, no matter how dire the circumstances. And though the stars above may seem distant and unreachable, they remind us of the infinite possibilities waiting to be unlocked. Together, we can build a world worthy of those dreams, a world where harmony reigns, not just among ourselves, but with the cosmos beyond. As dawn broke, casting golden light across the city skyline, Elena felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had stared into the abyss and chosen a different path. The Vaylith had shown them the consequences of inaction, but it was humanity's collective will that had sparked the flame of change. Whatever the future held, one truth remained. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and its destiny was intertwined with the stars. Months had passed since the Vaylith departed, leaving behind a planet forever changed. The Star Destroyers were gone, but their legacy lingered in every corner of Earth. The ecosphere generator gifted by the aliens continued to work wonders, transforming barren lands into thriving ecosystems and polluted waters into pristine habitats. Yet, as Dr. Elena Cruz often reminded people, the device was merely a tool, a catalyst for humanity's own efforts. The real change came from within. The Unity Initiative had grown into a global phenomenon, inspiring millions to take action in ways both big and small. In rural villages, farmers adopted sustainable farming techniques, planting crops that enriched the soil instead of depleting it. In bustling cities, residents turned rooftops into gardens and organized carpool programs to reduce emissions. Schools introduced environmental science as a core subject, teaching children about the delicate balance of nature and the importance of protecting it. Even corporations, once resistant to change, began investing in green technologies, driven partly by consumer demand and partly by the realization that sustainability was good for business. But perhaps the most profound transformation occurred in the way people viewed each other. For centuries, humanity had been divided by race, religion, nationality, and ideology. The arrival of the Vaylith had forced everyone to confront a common threat, uniting them under one shared identity: Earthlings. Borders became less significant, as nations collaborated on projects aimed at healing the planet. Refugees displaced by climate disasters found new homes in communities eager to help. Language barriers fell away as translators worked tirelessly to ensure no voice went unheard. At the heart of this unity stood Dr. Elena Cruz. Once an obscure astrophysicist working in obscurity, she had become a symbol of hope and resilience. Her speeches at the Global Unity Summit resonated deeply, reminding people that the fight for Earth survival wasn't just about reversing damage, it was about building a better future. "We are not defined by our mistakes," she declared during her closing remarks. "We are defined by how we rise after falling. Let us rise together." Her words inspired countless acts of kindness and determination. In India, a young girl named Priya started a campaign to plant trees in her village, eventually rallying thousands of volunteers to join her cause. In Brazil, a group of indigenous leaders partnered with scientists to protect the Amazon rainforest, blending ancient wisdom with modern technology. In Africa, solar-powered water purification systems brought clean drinking water to remote communities, improving health and quality of life. Everywhere you looked, stories of triumph emerged, proof that humanity could overcome even the greatest challenges when united by a common purpose. Yet, progress was not without its struggles. Resistance persisted in certain quarters, fueled by those who feared losing power or profit. Fossil fuel industries fought back against renewable energy initiatives, filing lawsuits and lobbying governments to delay regulations. Some politicians dismissed climate reform as unnecessary, claiming economic growth should take precedence. And extremists, emboldened by misinformation, staged protests denouncing the Unity Initiative as a threat to national sovereignty. Despite these obstacles, the movement pressed forward. Grassroots activists countered misinformation with facts, organizing educational campaigns to dispel myths about sustainability. Legal teams worked pro bono to defend environmental policies in court, ensuring they remained intact. And ordinary citizens refused to be silenced, flooding social media with messages of support for the Unity Initiative. One particularly memorable moment came when a powerful oil tycoon attempted to discredit the movement by accusing Dr. Cruz of fabricating data to justify her agenda. The accusation sparked outrage, prompting thousands of scientists to publicly endorse her work. Research institutions released decades' worth of studies confirming the urgency of addressing climate change. Journalists investigated the tycoon's claims, uncovering evidence of corruption and illegal activities within his company. By the time the scandal broke, public opinion had shifted decisively in favor of the Unity Initiative. As the months rolled on, signs of renewal became impossible to ignore. Glaciers that had been retreating for decades stabilized thanks to reduced greenhouse gas emissions. Endangered species rebounded as conservation efforts intensified. Air quality improved dramatically in major cities, allowing residents to breathe freely for the first time in years. Even weather patterns showed signs of stabilizing, with fewer extreme storms and droughts. The impact extended beyond the environment. Economies thrived as green industries created millions of jobs worldwide. Innovation flourished, with inventors developing groundbreaking solutions to age-old problems. Mental health improved as people felt empowered to make a difference, replacing feelings of helplessness with hope. Communities grew stronger, bound together by shared goals and mutual respect. In Ridgewood, Illinois, the small town where the sky had first parted to reveal the Star Destroyers, life had transformed in remarkable ways. Once a sleepy suburb, known only for its quiet streets and friendly neighbors, Ridgewood now served as a model for sustainable living. Residents installed solar panels on their roofs, planted community gardens, and organized weekly cleanup drives. Local schools partnered with universities to teach students about STEM fields focused on environmental preservation. Businesses adopted eco-friendly practices, earning certifications that attracted customers from neighboring towns. For Elena, returning to Ridgewood felt like coming full circle. She visited frequently, reconnecting with old friends and marveling at the changes taking place. During one such visit, she attended the annual Unity Day celebration, a festival honoring the town's commitment to sustainability and cooperation. Streets were lined with stalls selling handmade goods, organic produce, and educational materials. Children ran around playing games designed to teach them about recycling and conservation. Musicians performed songs celebrating Earth's beauty, while artists painted murals depicting scenes of harmony between humans and nature. Standing before a cheering crowd at the festival's main stage, Elena reflected on how far humanity had come. Just over a year ago, the world had been paralyzed by fear, unsure whether the Veilith's arrival signaled doom or salvation. Now it stood on the brink of a brighter future, one shaped by courage, creativity, and collaboration. "We've faced our darkest hour," she told the audience, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "We've stared into the abyss and chosen a different path. Today we celebrate not just what we've achieved, but who we've become. We are dreamers, builders, and healers. We are stewards of this planet, entrusted with its care. And though the journey ahead will be long, I have faith in our ability to persevere." Her speech ended with thunderous applause, followed by fireworks lighting up the night sky. As sparks danced overhead, Elena gazed upward, thinking of the Veilith. She wondered if they were watching, proud of what humanity had accomplished, or perhaps preparing to return someday, curious to see how much further Earth had progressed. Either way, she knew one thing for certain: humanity had proven itself worthy of a second chance. Above them, the stars shone brightly, reminding everyone of the vast universe waiting to be explored. No longer did humanity view itself as separate from the cosmos. Instead, it saw itself as part of something greater. The lessons learned from the Veilith's visit would guide generations to come, shaping a future defined not by fear, but by hope. And so, beneath the endless expanse of stars, humanity stepped boldly into a new era, an era of unity, innovation, and stewardship. The road ahead would undoubtedly have twists and turns, but with each step, Earth moved closer to fulfilling its potential. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Together.